You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Man, we are near the bottom, but we are definitely glad, for this episode leading into the election November 2nd for all of our listeners in VA, for y'all broadcasting worldwide. Definitely something to keep an eye on here. And that's why we have none other than Charlotte Rene Woods, our sister from over at partner entity Charlottesville Tomorrow. As if you all are new to Charlotte, every year, every election, she has this 2021 voter guide that she does a stellar job on with her and her team over there in the newsroom. So Charlotte, thank you for joining us. I know it's been busy. You doing well?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's an exciting time of the year. I always get so energized by all these elections every year. I also just got married.
Yeah, that's right. You showed it.
Congratulations.
You showed it.
Y'all get an A.
Props to you and Mike on that. So you've been extra busy. But it's always great to have you and to see the great work that you continue to do. So I want to kind of just hand it over to you, Charlotte. Like I said, our direct listening audience is here in the Charlottesville area, but so for the folks and all the elections going on right now, go ahead and give us sort of the rundown, the overview of this election coming up.
So I'll start from the top, I guess, because it is a gubernatorial election. So Virginia's governor election always falls between the presidential election and the midterms. So it's kind of like a bellwether to the rest of the United States. Everyone tends to watch Virginia and New Jersey because we're the only two states that have governor races this year. Right now, our governor race is really tight, at least from polling, take it with a grain of salt. It's not 100% perfect, right. But it can be a little bit of an indication leading up to Election Day. Right now, we have our Democratic former governor, Terry McAuliffe, which in Virginia, you cannot serve consecutive terms. So now he is seeking a second term, but not a consecutive term. Right. And then we have Republican challenger Glenn Youngkin, and it's really neck and neck right now. But being shut out of the polling and the debates is the third party candidate, Princess Blanding. So she's running as an independent, and she is the sister of Marcus David Peters, who was killed by police officers in May 2018, and for which the Marcus Alert Law took effect, which she's grateful that she was able to advocate for, but she would still like to change because she claims it was massively watered down throughout the legislative process. And then state level, obviously, we have Delegate Sally Hudson. She's our incumbent. Her challenger is Philip Andrew Hamilton. And then we have some other House of Delegates races that touch this general area, but are more in other areas, but they touch the Charlottesville-Albemarle area. So we have Rob Bell, the incumbent, his challenger, Sarah Radcliffe. We have Ben Moses, who's challenging Matt Ferris, and Jennifer Kitchen, who's challenging Chris Runyon. And then locally, we have city council races. So we have Juan Diego Wade and Brian Pinkston, who are the Democratic candidates who are going through, and then Yaz Washington, who is the independent challenger. And there are two seats, so this area has to choose between two of those three people. Albemarle County is not seeing a lot of opposition. A lot of incumbents are really sailing through, except for Graham Page, who's the incumbent school board candidate, and his challenger is Randy Zackerson, who is a write-in. And I think I've hit everything so far. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you did for the most part. The lieutenant governor is one that stands out to me, too.
I had no idea about Princess Blanding either.
Yeah,
man.
right, yeah. But like in Madison, there's a gun store, and on the side, Sister Girl Sears holding a machine gun. Showing the
I saw that.
Okay, sis. She's getting
her point across.
She's on the she's getting her point across because she's on a Republican ticket. But like a picture like that could say a lot. But but thank you, Charlotte, of course, as always for the great coverage. Let me ask you, like, how much has COVID response come up in your travels? Like, is that the top issue on how these candidates are going to handle COVID response within their realms?
It sort of is, but not so much by the candidates prodding, so to speak. I feel like moderators at political events are asking these questions, and it's not necessarily candidates bringing them up. I think at this point, a lot of Democrats are assuming that the people attending the rallies are vaccinated, and then a lot of Republicans don't really see getting vaccinated. Well, and this is, I don't want to speak broadly, but some Republicans say vaccination is key, to include Glenn Youngkin. Like he's not going to mandate it. He made that clear, but he does support it and encourage it. But generally, usually I feel like the Democratic candidates and constituents who show up to rallies are vaccinated and are very pro-vaccination, whereas it's not always the case with Republican rallies.
Right.
So for me as a reporter, I'm kind of like, just keep my mask on hand just to be safe.
Absolutely.
Make people comfortable.
Yeah. And Max and Aaron, y'all feel free to chime in. But the other question I had in mind, Charlotte, is the atmosphere here directly, locally within our city, because we know about the turmoil that continues. But when we look at these debates, or when we look at people stumping and campaigning, like what's the vibe that you're getting as far as maybe the hopefulness, that there could be peace in City Hall, or like what's that what's the atmosphere like, like as you're seeing the candidates speak?
Are you asking me or Max?
Oh no, you, Charlotte. Yeah, I was asking you.
Oh.
Yeah, just as far as like when you're out at the rallies and you're talking to folks, like how concerned are they, and is there a lot of hopefulness that that the turmoil can be waded through within the city? I feel like right now locally, everyone's just kind of holding their breath because there's just been so much turnover. And honestly, as a reporter covering this, it's consumed a lot of my time, and also just my heart goes out to everyone involved, because anyone who gets involved in politics, they're there for, I feel like this is where I'm admittedly being cheesy and saying I watch the Bachelor franchise, but they're for, quote, the right reasons. Right. I feel like everyone who gets involved really, in their core, they really care for all the right reasons. But Charlottesville City Hall has just been very unstable for so long. And so many candidates have come in and out. So many appointed people have come in and out. We're on our 5th city manager in 4 years. I know that Heather Hill and Nakia Walker are not seeking re-election. They're both very burnt out, Nakia in particular. I feel like right now, it's tricky. I don't want to really say what people are thinking or feeling, because there's a lot of thoughts and feelings that I'm witnessing from various constituents that I'm talking to.
So Charlotte, I will say that our current council member and mayor, Nakia Walker, who was running for re-election, recently withdrew. I've been hearing increasing conversation about writing her in on the election ballot. And so, so that's what I was going to ask you about, is that are you hearing any of that conversation?
I'm seeing a little bit of that on social media. I'm not sure how Nakia feels about it, because
that's what I was
pretty much
thinking.
made it clear where she's just kind of like, okay, I'm done with this chapter. Let me move on to a different chapter. But I think that really speaks to the hope that she's kind of symbolized for so long in the city. And then right now, obviously, you've got 2 Democratic candidates that are very supported by the party. You've got an independent candidate that originally ran as a Democratic and switched to independent. And then you've got Nakia, who dropped out, who would have been the incumbent independent, one of the few independents to actually get through. And again, that's where I'm always fascinated by independent candidates, because they symbolize where maybe the Republican and then Democratic parties aren't 100% serving everyone. And so that's why you see these shades of gray, and you see these independent candidates popping up saying, hey, you're not really hitting all the buttons here. And so that's why, like, for me moving here and like almost 3 years ago, and then encountering the politics in this area, it's been really eye-opening and really educational for me. Just, you know, as a somewhat young-ish reporter, getting into all of this and trying to understand the ecosystems of politics and how to serve your constituents.
And are you hearing from Yas Washington? Because I haven't heard much at all and wasn't even certain that she was still running at one point. I
actually had to email her a little while ago and ask her if she was still running, and apparently she is.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. You know, like it may say a lot about the sort of temperature construct of the city, but the candidates are Democratic. You know, Yaz is independent, but there's like no Republicans around in Charlottesville that's like, let me go in here and straighten things out.
Right.
You know, I'm just a little surprised ain't, you know, Nathan.
Actually, a few years ago, I was speaking with Quentin Kidd, who is a political analyst with Christopher Newport University, and I was asking him, I was like, so Charlottesville is really kind of a very, like, you want to label it in terms of like bigger politics, a blue area. I was telling him, I was like, most things in the Charlottesville area are Democratic, and it's kind of like a little blue island in a little red sea, and then you bleed out into the purple areas. And I was kind of asking him, I was like, so is this amount of independent candidates that are happening, that are popping up in local races, is that uncommon or is that common? And he was saying that it was probably somewhat common for one-party towns, whether you're a Republican or a Democratic town. If it's an area that's predominantly one party, if someone wants to run independent, it's a good signal that you're not the other side, but you're definitely not the status quo.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Thank you for that, Charlotte. And Charlotte, just in closing, you know, leading up to the election, any last words on early voting or any tidbits going into November 2nd?
Yeah, just early vote if you can, because right now mail has not been quite as reliable. So early vote if you can. Obviously, if you can carve out time on election day, show up and do that. Also, really, I didn't get a chance to talk about policy and really nerd out about that here. Obviously, I'm going to sound like shamelessly plugging, but go read the voter guide on charlottesvilletomorrow.org.
Absolutely.
Also, just absorb, Google everything you can about your local, your state, and your governor candidates, and just really focus on policy, because that is where the magic happens or doesn't happen. So really just read up, see what you like. Go for it.
That's right. Charlotte, thank you as always. And don't worry, you know we're going to have you back post-election, you know, so we can start piecing this thing together. Don't you worry.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I got to join you guys today.
Awesome. Absolutely. Feel likewise.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.